In this video, we're going to discuss creating an Angular 19 application from scratch. As we can see here, this is what we expect to get. So let's get started. The first thing we want to check is our version of Node. What we do is we type in node -v. I'm currently at 22.13.1, which is the current version of Node. If you want to get Node and you don't have it installed on your machine, or you just want to get the latest version, please go to the nodejs.org page. This is the page here that you want to go to, and you want to download Node.js LTS. You don't want to get the latest one because this is still in development and there may be bugs in it. If you're curious about the latest and greatest, go ahead and try this. But otherwise, I would recommend you run the LTS. Now, one note about Node is in production, you always want to run even number. They will tell you if you're trying to run like 21 or 19 in production, it will give you an error message telling you you need to run an even numbered version of Node. That's just something that's one of the requirements. I don't understand exactly why, but that's one of the requirements of Node. Next, you want to check the version of Angular you have installed, if you have it installed. So the way you do this is you type ng space version, not a -v, but spell out the word version completely, and it will print out your Angular version. So I'm on 19.1.4, which is the latest, and it shows the Node version, which matches the one up here. And my package manager is 11.0.0. If you type this and you don't get this screen, you just get a unknown command, then what you need to do is hop over to the Angular dev and go to the docs. And in docs, look for installation and follow the installation process here. They will step you through it. This command will install the base version of Angular in your global. You need that in order to create an Angular application. Now we are going to get into actually creating our Angular application from scratch. To begin with, make sure that you are in the folder where you want to create your Angular application. In my case here, I'm on my D drive, Software Development, Programmer Roadblocks, Angular. First of all, I want to show you the command to generate a new application. If you want to get help on this, type ng new --help. This will print out all of the commands that are available for you to create an application. Let's get into the important pieces. What you want, we're already in the directory, and we don't need to do any of these yet. Interactive, create application. So create application creates a new initial application with a new workspace. When false, creates an empty workspace with no initial application. You can use the ng generate application to create applications in the projects directory. Now, it's important to note that the default on this is true, but if you set this to false, it's going to create a little bit different project. It will have projects directory, something you don't get by default. And so if you say false on this, it'll create a projects folder. Now, if we go on down, inline template, I like these to be false, and that's the default. These are false. What that would do is you put your style in your template. Your template is your HTML. It's all going to go into the same TS file. Some teams want to do this. Most teams that I've been on don't want to do that. Minimal. This generates a minimal environment. You can play with these, try them out, see what it does. New project root. Okay, default is projects. So remember I set up here, if you create application with true, it's going to create a projects folder. Now here you can actually give it a different folder than projects. Then your project manager, by default it is npm, and that's what we're going to use. We're going to use the default project manager, so I don't have to give that. But these right here, this is the fastest of the three of these, but I'm just going to go with this because that's what the default is, and most people are doing that. Prefix. By default, the prefix is app. They're showing here you can put my app. You don't need to do that. It'll just default to app. But if you wanted to default this to, or if you wanted to set your prefix to another prefix, you could do that right here. And you could do just the -p or the -- prefix. And then you'd do a space and then your prefix in there. Routing. I always use routing because my applications have multiple pages, multiple routes, and I want to make sure routing is turned on. Skip get. I don't use this because this doesn't create the Git repository. I depend on Git in case I make mistakes, and I make a lot of mistakes, so I like to have Git as my backup. Skip install. What this does is it skips the install of all the npm packages. This is all your node modules. It just skips that and just creates the project shell, and then you need to run npm install manually. And then skip test. I don't recommend this, but if you're just learning and you don't want to deal with tests, you can do this. But even when you're learning, I would learn to write tests, because tests are something that you're going to need to do as a software engineer. That validates your code and makes sure that your application is running correctly. Standalone. When I first heard standalone, I thought, oh, it makes an executable that you can just run like a regular Windows application or a regular Mac application. That's not what it means. Standalone is removing the ng modules. Version 17, I believe, started making this true by default. So it's important to note that if you don't give this and you're used to the modules, it won't create the modules. You'll have to do that manually. But by default, every new component you create is going to be standalone component. Strict. I strongly recommend you don't disable this. By default, it is set to true. This will help you become a better programmer, and your code will be have less bugs in it. Your code will be more robust, and I strongly suggest leaving that as set to true. Style. So I always use style Sass. Here's the old Sass and here's the new Sass. SCSS. It's pronounced Sass, and this is CSS. This is the default, and then you can use less. Some people prefer less. Now keep in mind, this is a decision that's not based on individual programmers when you're working with a team. This is a decision that the whole team must make. Command to create a new application. In this case, my application is going to be called Demo App. Notice there's no space in here, no quotes around it. I'm just giving Demo App. And I'm using -- routing true and -- style Sass, SCSS. This is what I'm going to use to generate my application. So I press enter, and it's going to ask for server side. I say no. Notice the capital N there. That is what it's going to default to when you just press enter, and it starts generating your application. At this time, I'm going to pause, and we will pick it up when it is completed. Okay, it is completed building it. If we type dir, here's our demo app that we just created. Okay, I've opened Demo App up in my editor. I'm using Visual Studio. I'm using WebStorm. Visual Studio Code is another option. You can open it in any editor that you prefer. So let's go over the folder structure. This first folder here, you'll notice it's a color that means that it's not going to be saved to GitHub. Here's the node modules. These are in the gitignore. This is where all of those, so here's your VS Code. Here's some miscellaneous. DS Store, this would be on a Mac usually. This is going to be found on a Windows machine. This is for the IDEA. Now VS Code should be blocked, but for some reason it's not. And then I just noticed that my default is not main, but it's master, so I'm going to rename that. So I renamed that. This is my Git branch, so it's main, and now I'm ready to go. So at this point, I've got an application base established. The first thing we want to do is we want to run our application to make sure that the base application runs and is functioning correctly. Now I don't have my npm menu here. You could go, some people prefer to use the terminal. You could go here and use it here, but I like to use the npm menu. So I'm going to right click on package. This is for WebStorm. And I'm going to go down here, show npm scripts, and I'm going to click on start. And this starts up the web server. So if we go over, we look at our page, here is our application that we are expecting. I hope this video has helped you. Please like and subscribe, and we will continue to make more videos. Thank you.